What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Throw Show and the Root. So we're doing like a little cross podcast between Earth-Fed Muscle and the Throw Show, and the reason why we're doing that is because we have Maggie Ewen on the podcast, and Maggie is part of the Earth-Fed Elite and also happens to be the best female shot putter, discus thrower, hammer thrower, all-around thrower ever in the NCAA, and she is now a professional shot putter and hammer thrower. And so welcome to the podcast, Maggie. Thanks for being on.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
So I sort of, and Trevor is a co-host today.
Hi, I'm Trevor.
Maggie, I wanted to jump right into this, mainly because you had just posted on Instagram like a couple weeks ago a video of you throwing in high school. And so I love seeing like those throwback videos, especially from elite athletes in general, not just the throwing world, but elite athletes in general. And it was one of those things where it was interesting because watching you throw when you were in high school, you had even similar things in your technique that you still do today, but you've also dramatically overhauled what you were doing. And so if you could sort of walk us through how you got exposed to throwing, how you got into athletics in general, and then go over, where that career has taken you now.
Yeah, so I guess athletics in general, my family used to just be the big camping, hiking, fishing, just wanted to all be together outdoors, do all that fun stuff. And one day me and my sister came home with a volleyball flyer, and my mom's like, "Oh, perfect. I did D1 volleyball. I can coach you guys." And we were like, "Cool." And then a couple years later, we come home with a track and field flyer, and my dad's like, "Perfect. I did D1 track and field. I can be your coach." And it just kind of worked out awesomely that way. And my sister started when she was in 6th grade, I think. And I wanted to be just like my big sister, so I started when she started. So I was in like 3rd grade. And for me, it was just going out there and messing around with discuses and all that kind of stuff, and just really just having fun, like with my sister and with my dad. And eventually she phased out of it, and I just never really did. And then my dad, come 8th grade, convinced me to throw the shot put, even though I did not want to at all. I was not interested. But started throwing, and then really just never stopped. And, college came around. I got lots of recruiting letters and calls and all that sort of stuff. And Dumble called me, and that's just kind of where it ended up.
So you were based in, like, did you play volleyball then throughout high school as well?
All throughout high school. I almost went to college for it too. That was kind of my big decision my senior year, is what sport I wanted to do.
Okay, so you're doing volleyball and then throwing shot and disc.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I always think that time, like the time in high school when, especially for a 17 or 18-year-old kid, it's so rewarding, I guess, or egotistical a little bit to just get all these phone calls. Arizona State's calling you up, Penn State's calling you. Penn State was the only school that actually called me that was good, but no, I'm kidding.
It's okay, I didn't get any calls.
But what was that like, where you're sitting there and you're like, all of a sudden, you're clearly a good athlete, you're performing really, really well. Everybody knows who you are. You'd thrown 54 feet when you were in high school, right? Which is absurd. But you get to this point and it's like, man, like every school that you can think of, like you're clearly the number one recruit. So how do you handle that pressure, one, but also just like everybody telling you you're the best, everybody wanting you to please them and tell them that that's where you're going to go to school? How did you deal with that?
Well, what was crazy is, like, for me, my dad always says I was never like really like a throws nerd at all in high school. It was like I did it because it was fun. Mm-hmm. And like the first time, I went to sections, because for us it was a sections qualified you for state, and I got 3rd, and they take top 2, and my dad's like, "Oh, you were one spot away from making it to state." And for me, I was like, "What state?" And it was the same nationals. And then I didn't follow anything throwing in college. And so, like, honestly, like, when people started calling me, like, I was so in the dark, like, it was really cool for me. But I remember getting off the phone, like, with Coach Dumble. My dad was like, who is that? And I was like, I think he said his name was like Dumble something. Arizona State, I think. And at that time he was coaching like Jess Press and like Ryan Whiting and Jordan Clark and all these amazing people. And my dad followed throwing, and he's like the David Dumble, oh my gosh, this is great, and it was, I don't know. For me, it was more reacting how my dad did, because I really didn't know anything about like the college scene or anything like that, and it was really just fun for me. And so like when I started going on my recruiting visits and when I started talking to coaches, for me it was more about that, like the personal connection between like the team and the coach. And I don't know, thankfully there wasn't too much pressure of you're the number one recruit or anything like that, because I guess stuff like that just never really I guess I was never really aware of stuff like that.
Right.
Because for me, it was just this fun thing I enjoyed doing, and now I was getting the chance to continue to do it in college.
Right.
So, I'm not sure if that answered your question.
No, it did. It did, because for me, from the outside, it's like, okay, it's almost that, like, being naive to a point is positive, but also just doing what you want to do. Like, you're just out there throwing. Like, you're having fun. And that's like the ultimate thing with everything in life, is that everybody gets they put so much pressure on themselves all the time to please others, and they put so much pressure on their situation, and they never like take a step back, and they never sit there and they're going, once they do become more mature, they never take a step back and go, why am I doing this? Like, I'm doing this because 10 years ago I liked to do it. And now it's like, when you're saying that, that's from my perspective, it's like, that's how you got into it. And that's what makes it so enjoyable. That's what makes the sport so enjoyable, and why you like to do it.
Yeah. So I think one thing that a lot of people would be interested in is if you go through your progression through high school, if you remember each mark you've thrown each year.
I may be able to.
Okay.
So I think discus, I want to say it was like, I started in 7th grade, actually throwing for the high school team. And I think it was like 109, 135, 145. It was pretty much like a 10-foot jump every year.
Okay. So
and
you threw,
I ended around 179, I think.
Okay.
I think. And then in shot, I started in 8th grade. And I want to say I started around 40. And shot was kind of weird because I never did the glide, which I feel like is really weird to a lot of people. And so I spent my first like 2 or 3 years competing it with just like a stand throw or just like a wheel turn. And it wasn't until my senior year that I finally put the full throw together. And that's when I threw 54. So my jump in shot put, I think, was probably pretty strange, because I think it was like 40, 42, 44. And then all of a sudden it just jumped up to like 54.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because I was finally doing the full event, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. And would you like, I know you were kind of doing it, a lot for fun. Like, did you train for throwing like year round, or did you mainly just do it in the season and kind of focus on like volleyball during the fall and stuff?
I focused on volleyball during the fall. And then I played winter volleyball, but even through winter volleyball, and then into the summer and all that stuff, I was always training, throwing, mostly just because I like doing it. So, I'd just wake up on Saturday morning and be like, hey, Dad, you want to just go over to the track real quick and throw some discus? So it was just fun for me. So I did it year round.
Awesome.
I think volleyball is one of those sports that's like secretly the best sport for throwing. Like,
yeah.
I think we talked about it when you were recruiting the one girl from PA, when Trevor was the throws coach at Toledo, and he was recruiting a girl who was a beast volleyball player. I think she had even been on like a under 20 team for the U.S.
And she ended up going to Toledo for both then.
Yeah, and it's like it's one of those sports that teaches you to be so explosive that it transfers over really, really well because one, as soon as you start lifting, if you've played volleyball, you immediately just it's like a gymnast basically. It's like you blow up. I always found it's like nobody really talks about that though.
Yeah.
I guess
my whole college team, we would always get together on the weekends and we'd all play sand volleyball because all of us had played and the boys were good enough just, as is. But like all of the girls had played. So we would always get together and play beach volleyball.
So my daughter's got to play volleyball.
Yeah.
Although she's not going to be that tall. So I got to figure that part out. So walk us through then when you do get to college, you're surrounded by Olympians and one of the best coaches in the U.S. And that whole college, you're at Arizona State. It's a big time track school, pretty good football school, big time athletic program. And now all of a sudden you're basically like, okay, and I remember at the time when you were a freshman, I remember being like, who is this chick? Like, how is she throwing this far as a freshman? Because I wasn't fully into the high school scene, like on the national point at that time, or I wasn't paying attention maybe. But I do remember when you started throwing, being like, how is this chick throwing this far as a freshman? So like, walk us through even that. How did you handle that pressure when it's like you sort of come in and almost immediately just jump onto that national scene where everybody's sort of like, all right, well, who's the new girl? And then when is she going to start winning one of her, what did you win, like 12 or 9 NCAA titles?
Only 4 titles.
Oh, 4 titles,
11
okay.
Americans.
11. Only 11.
Only 11. That's not too bad. Sorry.
Yeah, I think what contributed to that jumping onto the new scene is my dad really reinforced 2 things to me coming out of high school. And the first one was that, okay, you've been basically like this big fish in this little pond for a long time, like states, like in Minnesota for throwing. For me, is basically I was winning state by almost 50 feet, in the discus and almost 10 feet in the shot, where it was like, okay, big fish, little pond. And he's like, now you're just going to be a big fish in the ocean where it doesn't really matter anymore, and you're going to need to like climb those ranks again and really prove yourself again. And so I think kind of taking that to heart and not really stepping in as much as I wanted to, but not really stepping in like, okay, I'm going to be the best, I'm going to be great, is more of the mindset of I need to work harder because it's only going to get harder to be on top. And then the second thing he told me was, like, he was my coach all through high school. He was basically like, I'm not your person anymore. And he's like, now that you're with Dumble, you have to 100% take in what he says. And, his word is law now. There's no questioning it. There's no fighting it. There's no arguing it. Whatever he tells you to do, that's the right thing to do. And I think kind of like those 2 mentalities is what really helped me kind of emerge the way I did, I guess, on the college scene. So
what was that like then when Blue Trick came in? Dumble leaves and goes to Oregon. What was that like? Like, how did you handle that? Because to me, that's like, and that sort of defines who you are as an athlete. I believe is that, you sat there. One of the best coaches that you could have leaves. A really, really good coach who's one of the best comes in, and it seemed as though your progression didn't stop. It was like, all right, I can roll with this and I can keep it going. And that's where, again, from the outside looking in, it's like, that to me sort of defines you, as an individual. Is like, you didn't let that difference or that adaptation period alter your path of progression.
Mm-hmm. No, I think because I took that coaching perspective straight into Blue Trick too. And I was like, okay, I had all this faith in Dumble. I had all of this faith in what he was teaching and what he was telling me and all this stuff. And there's a lot of things that Blue says that is completely opposite to what Dumble wants you to do. But I just had to 100% adopt that mentality of Blue's word is law now. You know, it doesn't matter if it contradicts something I wholeheartedly believe last year. If I want to make this work and I want to make this happen, there's no fighting it. There's no arguing it. Whatever he says is what I will do. And I think that is really like what helped me to just keep progressing through that junior year. Because even me and Blue were talking all through the fall and everything. We were like, expect this year to not be good. Mm-hmm. Basically, like, expect this year to be a change year and my senior year to be the good year, basically. But we were just as surprised as anybody else when, you know, come the first meet of the year and throughout the season, I just kept improving. But I think it was because I just 100% put my faith in Blue and didn't fight a word he said, basically.
I think that's one of the big, like, unrecognized, like, just traits of a very mature thrower. And, like, a lot of, you know, 18, 19-year-old kids who go into college, like, that is not what they're thinking. They're like, you know, they're contradicting. They want to second guess everything the coach says. They want to, you know, say, oh, well, I saw this. I saw, you know, I read this. My other coach said this. And I think that attitude is definitely a very, very, you know, like, it's a rare trait. I think it makes
Dude, I think it's hard.
Yeah.
I think it's stupid
like,
hard.
I think the back when I was in college, and I was the complete opposite of that. I was questioning it.
I'm still
That's probably why I didn't improve my first 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's tough, dude. That's like a really... I mean, even while you were saying that, I was thinking about myself in college, and I was like, God, I'm such a loser. Like, even today, like, I'm still resisting things that I need to just buy into somebody else. It's like, how do you get rid of the ego of, you know, and that's like my big question is, it's like, how do you do that? I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's just like a maturity thing.
Yeah.
A lot. Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like an athletic enlightenment. I know that's going a little too far, but it's like a point of just recognizing that, like, yo, like, this is the guide, and you're fully bought into executing the plan that's laid out and doing it as such, and it's gonna work. Mm-hmm. And that's where it's like, so now I feel like, you know, how do you take that into your post collegiate career? Like, how do you get to that same point post collegiately, or is this something you're still struggling with, or you know, what does that entail then?
Yeah, that's what's been a little bit difficult this year is, you know, I would love to keep working with Blue Trick because, like, obviously I, like, 100% believe in everything he teaches, but now that I'm not on that NCAA level, he's got so much talent on the team, you know, that I don't blame him, but I kind of come in like a third place as far as, like, attention. So now I'm working with the assistant coach at ASU, who's Kyle Long, and he teaches the exact same thing, just from basically just a different way of saying it, but he says the exact same things. And that's kind of been the journey lately, is to make that change now at this time of year. But, you know, still 100% going into it, knowing, okay, his word is law now, and we're going to make this work. So, yeah, that's where we're at now.
Yeah, but I think also just having that attitude is probably the best as far as, like, handling the stress, handling the situations, and working forward positively as well as you can, or progressing forward as well as you can. It's just like resistance is To quote Star Trek, resistance is futile. And if you could sit there and just be like, oh, I just got to roll with the plan. And when the season's over, that's when, you can sit there and be like, all right, heading into 2020, this plan might be the exact same plan or it might be slightly different. But for you to resist whatever it currently is, it's pointless. It's not going to be a positive situation if you are, at least from my perspective.
No, I agree. And that's what this year's kind of been all about, is kind of finding now where I belong on that like professional circuit and like who that support group is that's going to help me accomplish the same sort of things that I accomplished in college with Blue. Right. And those have been kind of the struggles of this year so far.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I think, if you can, I remember reading articles when Allison Felix first went pro. She's like 19 years old, and for the first 2 or 3 years of her life, or 2 or 3 years of her her professional career, it was the same thing where I think her dad was traveling with her quite a bit because she was struggling with the exact same things that you're dealing with. And I think who's a sprinter from PA, Lauren Williams, she was Olympic champ, and she's the only woman I think to win a bobsled gold medal and a 4x1 gold medal. And she I was just with her at the Olympic Training Center, and she went over how that transition period where you go from college, where you've got a counselor, you've got your coach, you've got your sports therapist, all these different things, and then you graduate and you have nothing. You don't have money. You have literally nothing, and you got to sit there and piece that puzzle together. And also trust the system that you've tried to create from your past experiences. It's not, and I think this is a problem with the throwing world, is that the throwing world has so many haters. Everybody's looking from the outside, and you're somebody who's been so successful that, dude, people like to see the leaders. People like to see Tom Brady fail. People like to see you fail, because then it's like, oh wow, they're normal. And as sad as that is. That's what's pathetic, is like now people will sit there and they'll run their mouth or whatever, instead of being like, you know what, you're dealing with the same stuff that everybody else is, and you're a human being just like everybody else, and it's not easy.
No, it hasn't been this year, but I think we're starting to find it.
Yeah, that's good. So I think some of my big questions are, I want to know, like from an athletic perspective or from a training perspective, is like, do you throw various weighted implements? What are your best lifts? What do you try and focus on in training? What's your mental approach like getting to meet? So, maybe start off with what is your big focus when you're going to a training session? Do you know what kind of implements you're going to be throwing? Do you always throw the competitive implements, or does that vary?
In hammer, it varies depending on what we're working on, as far as like, do we want to work on specific strength? Do I need to work on being patient and throw a heavier ball? Do I need to work on speed and throw a lighter ball? But in shot, we pretty much just stick with the 4K. I've never really had any experience going up or down. We go down sometimes just to work on the strike. So I don't have to worry about, like taking too many reps on my wrist and having that get sore or anything. But for the most part, we just stick with the competition weight in the shot put. So yeah.
Do you often do any do you do many partial throws or drills, like half turns, like a bunch of stands, or is it pretty much just full reverse throws? Do you do a lot of non-reverses, or?
There's kind of like a drill progression we go through a little bit every practice, where it's stand throws, stand reverses, salts, and then full throws without a reverse, and then we go on. And then once the full with the reverse starts to kind of like break down near the end of practice, we just kind of like pick a drill based on like kind of like what we're seeing start to go wrong, to kind of like finish up the practice with just like a couple easy throws of maybe just some South Africans. Or if my strike was really bad that day, not really bad, but if my strike was the thing that was kind of falling apart, like we'll just drop the weight down and we'll just do a couple stand throws, really focusing on like those issue areas for that day.
Okay. So like how many maybe all of those throws combined, like what is like how many throws does that usually add up to in a day? If you, if you could figure that out.
I don't know. I don't really count. We just
Okay.
kind of go basically until my body gives up every day, until it's like, okay, I just can't do this anymore, physically. And it's usually about an hour, maybe sometimes hour 15, somewhere in there. But I'm the only one out there and just retrieving, come back, throw, retrieve, come back, throw.
Okay.
So I don't know kind of what that would equal out to, but that's a time limit at least for me.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah.
Well, if we continue with the training stuff, what about like when you're in the weight room? What would be how can you describe what you do in the weight room? Like, what are the goals in the weight room that are going to transfer over to what you're doing in the circle?
We like to do a lot of like explosive and dynamic stuff because Ryan Whiting is the one who writes my workouts now, and so we do a lot of. Some of the auxiliaries are really strange, but they're all like very dynamic and very like total body, kind of like working those small muscles that you would use in the shot put, in kind of like a unique way, like in the weight room. And so I think the big thing we try and do in the weight room is just kind of work on that explosive ability and that like dynamic ability, because I think that's where my strengths are in throwing, because I'm not, just like a big, strong girl. I'm like much more of just that smaller, explosive, like quick type of athlete, I suppose. And we try and get that work done in the weight room so we can like transfer it into the shot put.
Yeah. So like maybe if you would, I don't know, like pick a couple lifts, like maybe like how much have you like benched?
So I bench not strict, which a lot of people don't like, but Ryan says it's okay because we're dynamic athletes.
We do the same thing. We do the same thing.
But I do 275 in the bench. But yeah, it's with a pretty big arch.
Yeah.
And then like my clean is like right around 275 as well. I don't know. We don't max too much, so it's hard to say for some of them.
What about squats? Like a back squat or a front squat? What are your best that you could remember?
So I don't really squat anymore because I have two bulging discs, or like right around that last vertebrae. So basically, anything weight bearing, like on my shoulders, that compresses my spine, I can't do. But when I was like a freshman, I was doing like 375, I think, like with dumbbell before my back started acting up.
Okay.
So now we do things like belt squat and stuff like that, more like weird deadlifty type stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
Have you ever snatched?
Have I ever what?
Have you ever snatched?
Oh, yeah. I've never maxed it, but I have snatched.
What's your what do you, if you can remember, what's like your best double?
My best double? It's probably only like 80 kilograms,
Okay.
I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like it's not overly impressive, but I don't really know.
It's not too bad.
That's not bad for a double. I think that's pretty good.
That'd be like a power snatch, like, or is that like going down in the hole or catching it tall?
Kind of like half and half, I'd say.
Okay.
Like, yeah, in between.
Okay.
So I think some of the questions I have too are related to like your performance, or like the way that you handle stress, especially like in a really high stress situation, be it at NCAAs or even last year at USA's. Like how do you approach like the night before and then the day of a big competition? Like how are you handling, are you visualizing? Are you laying out your goals? Are you going through mental prep? Like what would you do? Like, like this year, you're heading into basically a world team trial, and you've got to go top 3, and you got to sit there and go, okay, what am I going to do that last day? And then what am I doing even, as you're hours out from competition to really calm yourself down?
Yeah, I mean, I think the nice thing is I don't get too crazy stressed. Because, like, back in high school, I remember this girl that I really looked up to in throwing. You know, I remember asking her at state, like, I was like, oh, are you excited? Are you excited? And she's like, it's just another meet. Just another chance to throw. And, like, for some reason, that's, like, really stuck with me. And so for me, kind of like no matter what the meet is, you know, whether it's like a duel out here at ASU or, you know, trying to make like a national team, for me, it's just like, it's just another chance to throw, you know, just another chance to do what I enjoy. And since I'm like really competitive by nature and like really competitive with myself, you know, like it's less like I want to beat everybody else and more like I just want to do the best I can do and hopefully beat my previous records. And that will put me where it will put me, you know, and whether it be that puts me in first, that's awesome. If that puts me in third because some other people had some great days, you know, I tried my best, I did my best, and all that kind of stuff. So for me, I don't really get that like crazy stressful feeling. I get like the butterflies, but that's just all excitement, I think. And so like I usually like shake out the day before, you know, just get a couple good feels in so I can like hopefully if they let you on the competition ring, at least feel, you know, like what the speed's going to be like, pick one or two technical things to kind of focus on, and then just kind of stay relaxed until the meet, you know, there's not really like a routine or a process or anything, just go out there and have fun, really.
Yeah, it's simple, like stay calm and execute.
Yeah.
But that's also the hardest thing.
Right, yeah. Might be simple.
Yeah.
Do you have any like pre-meet like rituals? Like do like the same thing, like I don't know, wear the same socks or like I don't know, something like
something Trevor used to do is he had these special farming socks that were covered in pig shit. And he wore them every time, and no one would stand near him at a meet.
Yeah, that's how I kept everyone away. Yeah.
I guess I personally, there's really nothing. Because another thing my dad told me, he's like, you get into a routine, the second someone does anything to throw off that routine, you know, how are you going to recover? You know, like, what if you can't find those socks the day of? Or what if, you know,
Trevor,
like,
I told you.
What are you going to do?
Right.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
So, no routines for me. I'm boring.
All right, that's good. So if we go into, we do at the end of every.
Hold on, I do have one more question I wanted to ask before we go into the
red hot minute.
Yeah. Get ready. I coach the high schoolers here at Cross Strength, and like we get a lot of like, you know, high school girls in, and some of them are like they get a little worried with like, you know, like you had said, like, you know, throwing the shot put. I feel like, you know, there can be stigmas behind that, and there, you know, even like lifting and like getting bigger and you know, everything related with that. Like, I guess one thing I wanted to ask you is if you have like any just like words of advice for like
image issues.
Image and like, you know, just for female throwers in general, just because you are at the, you know, you're pretty much at the top spot as a, you know, female thrower. But.
I mean, I think what I'd say, you know, I just kind of like you have to like work hard, you know, obviously, and just like find, you know, like what your body is capable of, you know, and sometimes, you know, like your body type isn't ideal for what you're doing, like mine, you know, like I'm way smaller than most people thought, you know, like a shot putter could be, and I'm like, but I wanted to be good at shot put, and so like, you know, I made it happen, and I did all the crazy things to make it happen. And I think like just not letting anyone like tell you what you have to be, tell you what you need to be in order to be good at something, and like finding your own path to it, because everyone always told me, you know, like I remember even when I got to college, they were just like, gain weight, you need to gain weight, you're never going to be good if you're not 220 pounds. And you know, I was always kind of like, yeah, maybe, I don't think so, and I've never been over like 190 ever since I started throwing like 19 meters. And I think you just have to find like what works for you and like what's best for you. And, don't always take what other people say as the truth unless you've really experimented with it yourself and really found out like, okay, can I be 185 pounds and still throw 19 meters? Like, who's really going to stop me? And, just finding your own way, I think is what's important.
I think that's good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because if you think, I'm just thinking right away, I immediately thought about the Canadian girls and like Sarah Minton. Last year she threw here and she threw like 18:42, and I was able to talk to her quite a bit. And she just won the World University Games, and she's like 180 and she's like 5'4", 5'5". She's not big at all. And then, she even brought up her training partner, Brittany Crew, is a lot bigger. And she's like, well, that's the way Brittany's built, and that's how that's her best weight is a little bit heavier, and my best weight is here, and it's okay. It's like accepting the fact that some of my throwers that are females, their best weight might be 225, and some of them it might be like somebody like Peyton who's built almost exactly like you. It's like her best weight might be 185. So what's the point of sitting there telling her to gain all this weight? But she doesn't know how to use that extra weight, and that's the big thing. It's just like, I think exactly what you said. Just like, do what you need to do to accomplish what you want to accomplish, but you don't have to sit here and
force yourself into another mold.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you don't have to fit the mold because not everybody does.
I do think what's cool is like seeing you and seeing Alyssa Wilson and knowing Alyssa from the time she was in 8th grade. It's like, and seeing her, especially now, like 2 years into college, she's completely changed her body composition and she's still throwing farther. And it's like, we don't need to weigh 300 pounds to throw a 4 kilo far. Like, you don't need to do that. You can be where you're at or a little bit lighter and still have still compete really, really well. And you can also still be bigger if that's who you want to be. And that's just what it comes back to. It's like, dude, just be who you want to be.
Yeah.
Right, Trevor?
100%.
I'm going to stop losing weight. I'm just going to do me.
Do what? 290.
290
days.
Yeah.
All right.
So we do like what we call a red hot minute, which is like, it ends up being me talking for 10 minutes and you answering for like a minute. But we'll give you like 5 questions. How many questions do you have?
I have 3. Do you?
I'll try and get 2 quick.
All right.
So Trevor will ask you a question first, and you get like a minute to answer the question.
Okay.
All right. So the first, I think we'll start off a little bit more throwing related, and then maybe veer off that. But the first one is, so you're a 2. Actually, both these questions kind of go off of this, but you're a 2 event thrower right now, shot and hammer. Would you rather get, and honestly, you're probably capable of doing both of these, but would you rather be an Olympic gold medalist in one? No, Olympic gold medalist in one, or just an Olympic medalist in both, like bronze.
Oh no, that's so hard. Oh dear. I feel like probably. Oh, that's so tough because America's never had a medalist in the women's hammer, so like that says something on its own.
Anyways, yeah.
But it's so nice and so pretty to have the gold.
I mean, you could win the gold in the hammer.
Gold.
Yeah, gold and gold. You go gold? Okay.
Oh, it's so hard. I can't tell. Yeah. We'll go with gold for now.
All right. So then, close to this, related, is I'm going to make you pick. If you were to only pick one event, would it be the shot or the hammer?
Oh, no. Probably the hammer, because I think in the long run, that's going to be my best event.
Okay.
So probably the hammer.
All right. Do you have any?
I have 2.
All right.
2 right now. I might make more after you do. Okay, so this is an earth-fed muscle question.
Okay.
Lover's Way or Husky Dunker? Did you get the Husky Dunker in the mail?
I haven't gotten it yet.
Oh, jeez. How about Lover's Way or Winter Way? Did you have the Winter Way?
I didn't. I probably would have to go with Lovers.
Okay.
Peanut butter person.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, I got another throwing question.
Okay.
Shot 20 meters or hammer. I said 78 meters, but maybe I should make it 80.
80. Go 80.
Okay, so shot 20 meters or hammer 80.
Probably hammer 80.
Yeah.
As far as which one would I want?
Yeah.
Or what I think I can do? Probably
Both.
hammer 80.
Both.
Both? I think I can do both, but I want hammer 80.
All right.
Okay, you go.
All right. So this is maybe partially throwing related, right? Really not. But are you a coffee or tea drinker?
Very much coffee.
Coffee. Okay. All right.
Trying to think of one more.
Come on, you got it.
Okay, this is like a real hokey one. Minnesota or Arizona?
Oh, Minnesota. All the way.
All right. Okay.
It could be it's probably like 70 degrees there right now.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
Arizona's probably like 120.
Yeah. I told my dad when I was making my college decisions, I was like, I don't want to go anywhere warm. I don't want to go anywhere far away. And like, I don't want to all of these things. And Arizona matched all of those things. And still I came here and I was like, I don't know what I was thinking. But it worked out. Worked out for the best.
Do you have any other questions, Trevor?
No, I don't.
Right, I'm good. Maggie, thank you so much for being on the Joint Throw Show and the Root.
Yeah, thank you.
I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun picking your brain and seeing, trying to see inside of the mindset that you have for training and life in general. So I appreciate you being on the shows.
Yeah. Of course. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.